The following short story teaches a lesson. It's a very human message. The moral value of people in life. It's worth listening to and thinking about. And right after, I would like to wish you and your friends. There are moments of listening. It's relaxing. In my simple house by the river, Mr. Folk and Ms. Nuyet's family lived simply and warmly, with 3 children, but in it, Long, the eldest son. It's their adopted son again. Mr. Fuck used to be an industrious, naive farmer and devoted to family. Although not rich in material things, you always keep a warm heart and high sense of responsibility. And Mrs. Moon, a gentle and kind woman. She was always quietly worried. Take care of every meal for your husband. Long, an orphan boy from birth, growing up in difficult days. You were abandoned at a very young age. Have to roam for a living on their own, on the dusty streets, on a long trip. By chance, Mr. Fuck and Mrs. Nuyet caught Long. Skinny boy, sad eyes but with a strong will to live. Before that miserable scene, their hidden certainty rises. Even though the life of the family is not abundant, they decided to adopt Long. She welcomed the boy as a new member of the family. At that time, his parents had 2 children, Thorst and Thea. Not with the same blood, but since you've stepped into this house, have never felt alienated or discriminated against. Mr. Folk and Mrs. Nuyet raised Long with all his love. As for my own children, Long not only helps his parents in the daily work, I take care of the 2 of you. The days of peace pass by, but happiness doesn't last long. He was happy after a period of declining health. No longer able heavy labor, the heavy responsibility of raising a family, enough on Long's shoulders. You're just a teenager. You don't respect any work. From buffalo herders cutting grass to carry rented water to the lake. Earn every penny to take care of meals for the family. The little money that Long earned, not enough to improve life, but you still try to eat. But much more for you. You're always afraid that you're full. You will be hungry. Every day after the hard work in the field. Back to the fire. Quietly cooking mealtimes for the family. Only white rice with some green vegetables. Sometimes we're lucky to have some dry fish or a small piece of meat. But no matter how poor the meal is, I always give the most to you. You just eat a little, then quickly get up and do something else. What's important to Long? It's not my meal. It's about abundance for loved ones. On cold winter nights, please enjoy White Night to Fan, carbonated for small house. Take care of every sleep for you. Take your brother back to his sick body. They need special care. Long willing to be by your side whenever you need. The nights of a cough. Long startled to wake up. Then light the fire. Chop and suck. Give me every sip of warm water. Long eyes are always deep because of sleepless nights. Before you once complained, or complain about the hard work. Long, you are the only thing. It makes you so strong and strong. Long's life has quietly passed by. In the days full of man, you dare not dream for yourself. I don't need anything. The only thing you want. You will grow up healthy. Be well educated and have a bright future. Above all, longing for one day, your husband and your wife will be as well as before. There was a time when it was pouring rain. Captured, the youngest sister ran into the house. The cry sobs. Because he likes a doll that his friends have. The enemy feels self-pity. When I look at you, everyone has a doll. While it doesn't. I don't know how to brush your hair. Your voice is soft. I'll find a way for you to have a doll. Don't worry. I looked up at you, my eyes still glistening. Really, I promise, I promise. The next morning, Long walked along the village streets. Stop in front of the toy store. His eyes looked at the doll in the closet. I try to cut down on food. More errands, please. All the hard-earned money. It's enough to buy a doll for my sister. But you're too hungry to eat less. One day I didn't even dare to eat to buy it for you. Holding the doll in her hands, eager to come home. But he's hungry and he goes through the bread shop. The smell of bread makes you hungry. Looking around, people decided to take a risk. Take a loaf of bread and run away. 7 bars behind the clock. It made Long even more panicked. Thief. People in the store are chasing and running. Doll hugged tight in hand. Photos of the small streets. Foot on the bumpy road. To a corner, Tran Long stumbled upon a large stone. He fell to the ground on his elbow, blood vinegar. My feet are aching. Bite your teeth tight. It's a cowardly breath, but it can't stop. I tried to run and frown with pain. But the hands are still hugging the doll without maggots. Running forever when there is no escape. I can see a big trash can on the corner. There's no choice. I quickly crept in, trying to catch my breath. The stench rises. Long choked his neck, but he bit his teeth. Hands still right back the doll, afraid it gets dirty. The voices in front of the people on the street are falling silent. I dare to breathe in now. Palms cold, sweaty hands. You're lying in the trash, wearing the stench. I ate every piece of bread because I was hungry. When it's dark and creeping out of the trash, my feet hurt, but I still try to walk. The face grimaced every time the heel touched the ground. The thought of walking home. The doll is still in your hands, clean. When you get home, he opened the door softly and walked into the studio. The sister was sleeping. Her face was covered in tears. Please put the doll on the bed, slightly muddy my shoulders. Get up, I've got something for you. I opened my eyes and saw the doll in my hand. Her face glowed, and she couldn't believe her eyes. Long, I bought it for you. Long nodded and smiled weakly. Yes, there's my doll. See if you like it. She hugged the smiling doll. I love it so much. Thank you, Long. Surprise collection. But Mr. Long, what does your body smell like? The fear of standing further away. Now the pain in my leg is piercing. Everyone started to shiver. I walked out of the room and went to bed. But before you get there, you're burned. The head. Legs down, body down on the floor. That night my body was hot. My whole body trembled every time. But I was relieved to know that. The enemy is having fun with the doll you bought for him. The next morning, showing off the doll to everyone in the house. But when I saw my brother laying flat on the bed, she panicked. Fall run to lay light Long. Mr. Long, are you sick? I opened my eyes to see my sister with a faint smile. Don't worry. I'm fine. I like that doll. I'm happy. As time goes by, Long's 2 children are growing up. But the mind itself has been able to touch weakly since childhood. Until the mind turns 17. You found out you have severe kidney disease. This disease cannot be cured. Without a kidney transplant, the family has no money to spend. Pay for major surgery, CA. The mind is a good student. I have a dream of becoming a doctor. Look at your eyes. Young man full of aspiration. Step into the university lecture hall. The whole family is more desperate. Mrs. Nuyet sat by the hospital bed of red-eyed mind. I don't know how to do it now. The mind is too young. My family doesn't have the right AI, and there's no money. He sat quietly inside. God knows how to do it. Let's pray for a miracle. Listen to your parents. They are heavy. I can't just sit there and watch my brother like that. In my heart, I want to save my heart. Now the whole family is in despair. Then I got the news that someone had agreed to donate a kidney. Your whole house is broken. In great joy. Because this means that your mind will have a chance to be saved. The surgery then went well. Success beyond expectations. The mind is saved and gradually recovered. Parents' mind excited to see my son through a crisis. But they don't know anything about the person who helped. After the mind is discharged, you get better and go back to your normal life. But contrary to the mind, there are more and more visible signs of weakness. Your body is pale and thin. My body is no longer as fast as before. Mrs. Nuyet Me Long. Many times I saw you sweat on your face. Pale face. Who did not see again. It looks like it's suffering from smoldering pain. Every time she asked Han, I laughed except to say nothing. But his tired eyes and heavy footsteps. You can't help but worry. One evening, Mrs. Nuyet Thi Long sat in front of the house, rubbing her hands on her stomach. The face looks tired. She walked over and sat down next to her son with suspicious eyes. What's wrong with Long? I see you have a stomachache lately. She asked me to stare at you. Long startled, but she hid. No, Mom, I'm just a little tired. Mrs. Moon is silent, her swollen eyes. She choked, hugging Long. Son, if you work less, you have to worry about yourself. I'm grateful for you and I feel so bad for you. Smiling, trying to calm my mother. I'm okay, Mom. Don't worry about me. My whole family is happy. I'm glad. Mrs. Nguyen only hugged Long tightly, far from mercy, and proud of the son who died quietly. For my family without thanks or recognition. One day when she took her mind to be re-examined, during the conversation, she asked the doctor about. She sometimes saw the eldest son hugging his belly. She's worried. She wants to make an appointment to see Cho Long. Because the doctor heard this and pondered it. Finally, he decided to tell the truth to Mrs. Long was the one who donated his kidney to save his life. The doctor wants to remind you. Pay attention to Long's health as well. Look at the skinny boy, but resilient. That made the old doctor uneasy. A woman who does not believe in her hands. You don't know that all this time. Son, a man you and your family always see as weak. Only worry about others. He sacrificed a part of his body in exchange for life for the mind. My brother is pursuing his dream of becoming a doctor. When she got home, she couldn't hold back her tears. She walked into Long's small room, where you've lived quietly all these years. The heart is sitting quietly. Maybe the old clothes are still the image of the elder brother. Whispers that everyone is familiar with. Long, I know it all. I know it all. Why didn't you tell me? Why do you have to suffer in silence? Looking up at my mother. Your eyes are sad but not surprised. I know that this truth will one day be discovered. But that doesn't matter anymore. Mom, I'm not doing this to let people know. I just want to see my mind healthy. Keep living and pursuing your dreams. I owe my parents a lot. It was my parents who saved me from being orphaned. Give me a family. Give me a chance to be loved. I just want to give back. Give back to your parents and children. It's enough for me to do that. Mrs. Nuyet sat down next to Long, tears rolling down my face. She cried not only because she loved Long, but also because of the infinite sacrifice that you gave to your family that never demands a response. Mrs. Moon choked as she sat and cried. I never thought I owed my parents anything. I'm your son. From the day I walked into this house, your parents loved you as your own. You don't have to do anything to repay me. I'm heartbroken, baby. I've suffered too much with this family. Patient generosity. Mom, I don't feel miserable. I just need you to live well, healthy and happy. It's my greatest joy. I never needed anything for myself. Please don't be sad for me. Mrs. Moon looked Long. Her heart tightened to see the image of the son she loved, who sacrificed too much without ever blaming. The scars on Long's body, the wound in the leg reminded me. And now there's the loss of a part of the body because of the mind. They are all signs of unconditional love. Long for the family. That evening when the mind returned from the study, he saw Long sitting with an oil lamp, and he mended his worn old shirt. He looked at me for a moment and then looked annoyed. I keep doing these little things all the time. Don't you try to do something bigger. You can never get better like this. Hands looking down at the tattered shirt. Then I turned to look at my brother. But instead of replying, he just quietly kept stitching. Needles passed through the fabric as if not wanting to argue. The mind is so irritated. You are the earth. She had just finished her words away from the house. I hear everything. Without a word, she raised her hand straight to her heart. It makes you dizzy. Slap pain not only on the flesh, it also makes the heart lie. Mrs. Moon shouted angrily. That's what your mind can hear. You two worry about the whole family sacrificing everything for you. I don't even understand why. You can be so mean to your brother. Stunned. He had never been beaten and scolded so severely by his mother. In my heart, I rise with anger and contempt. You just quietly turn away. Enter the house, close the door. Despite the contradictions and discomfort, day Mind received the first medical college pass. The whole family is in happiness. Everyone was overjoyed. My parents can't hide their pride. And you hold your head high. My eyes turn to a promising future. Dreaming of the day I became a doctor. He will help his family out of poverty. In the midst of that hectic scene, stand quietly in the corner of the yard to prepare for the night. Your body is tired, your face is emaciated, but still trying to be calm. Mrs. Moon looked at her eldest son. Her heart tightened. When I see your thin blue light. She walked up to Long with a choked voice. You worked too long. I love you, but I don't know how to help you. Smiling, try to be gentle so you can rest assured. Don't worry, Mom, I can take it. As long as he learns to be human. Even the extreme ones. Long's words are simple but loving. When the mind is not interested in you. Has Long fed her husband a strong desire. I want to prove to you that you are the one who will become the pillar of the family, who will help people out of poverty. In my heart, that thought is growing. When I see you're always worried about Cho Long. My brother has worked hard all his life with his hands. You tell yourself that one day, I will be a good doctor. You can give your family a better life. There's no need to suffer from deprivation. Every time I look at my work from morning to night, the mind feels more and more clearly. Pressure to succeed. You don't want me to keep putting my faith in my brother. People whose minds think it will never be, to escape the vicious cycle of poverty. In the mind's eye, you are the only one who carries the burden of life. You have a bright future ahead of you. This is the real hope of the whole family. Years have passed. She graduated and married the daughter of the director. A beautiful woman, rich and powerful. Fast forward in career. Become a reputable doctor. The future of open minds. And you've got everything that many people dream of. A beautiful wife. Solid status and 2 lovely little girls. He also attended college in Hanoi. Both of her children succeeded. To be properly educated. Her little house is now filled with joy. With enough meals. When you come home with your wife. I returned to Hanoi every school break. Bring new stories. The bright smiles. Mrs. Moon sat quietly watching the children. My heart is down but proud, because they have grown up and find my own way. Long is the most worried child. Long is almost 40 years old, but he won't get married. Make money every day. Feed the children and feed their parents. On a summer evening, the hot air enveloped the small house. I went back home and dragged her into the room, my hands trembling. Tears kept falling in front of her pale face. "Mom, I'm pregnant." Her voice loved chilly but full of panic. Mrs. Moon is silent. I have a cup of tea that I drop at any time. She looked at her daughter in a lie. What do you say? Who is the little father? Hand water up hugging face. He's married, Mom. I didn't know I was wrong. Mrs. Moon fell down and smelled out her chair. She didn't know whether to blame her daughter or herself. What to do now, Colleen? If you know why, then the honor of the family will be Rhea Sao. Collect the devil down on the floor, two hands clinging to mother. Mom, please don't tell my dad, please. I don't know what to do. Mrs. Moon looked at her daughter with heavy eyes. After a few minutes of silence, she sighed. I'll find a way. Go back to the countryside for a while. Everything will pass. Days in the closed country. Like me in a small house. Every time someone asks her a question, she says, "Take away the cure." But you know, my daughter's real illness, it can't be cured with medication. The belly grows larger. And every day that goes by, a sadness that seeps deep into your heart. The night before birth, sitting by the window looking out into the dark, whisper to Mom, I don't want to keep the baby. It's the result of wrongness. I want to rebuild my life. Mrs. Moon sat with her eyes filled with fear. Are you sure it's your blood? I can't be his mother, Mom. Please help me. Cry out. Every word is like a knife to Mrs. The day the baby was born, I didn't look up once the baby was crying. Tiny hands fumbling for my mother's warmth. But turn your face away, tears fall. I can't keep it. Help me, please. The receiver whispered, his voice crumbling. Mrs. Moon hugged the baby in her arms. Look at my nephew's little face. The pain is like cutting. I finally decided to take you to the temple. In front of the temple, she met her nun. Her eyes were quiet, but full of compassion. You can have the baby here. We'll take care of it, she said softly and handed him the baby. She looked at the child for the last time with a heavy heart. I'll send you a monthly stipend, but please take care of my nephew. The nun accepted the baby into her lap. We'll nurture it and rest assured. Since that day, she has often been in the temple. You came not only to do good, but to watch my grandchild grow every day. At night when everyone in the house is asleep, she used to sit on the porch watching the dim moon outside. She blames herself for not being able to keep the baby by her side. You can't stop a girl from making a mistake. Many times I have seen her cry. My heart can't help but worry. One night I decided to ask my mother. I saw her crying alone in the kitchen. Mom, what is it that I see you crying so sadly? I said, tell me, I'll help you. Mrs. Moon looked at the tears again. You can't keep this secret anymore. Tell Long all about the story of Thursday. Long, that baby is my grandchild. But she's a girl. Now let everyone know about it. Its future will be lost. So I had to take her to the temple. I was heartbroken, but I didn't dare to disobey him. I have to do something, Long. My mother told me my heart was broken. I can't believe that. It's so thin and shallow. Love earned millions from the baby. Should think insufficiently. Long thought, and I knew what to do. Mom, I'm going to the temple to pick you up. You can't let him live in a temple like that. I will raise him as my own. I'll tell everyone it's my baby. Mrs. Moon looked at him with appreciation and compassion. She understood that Long was once again taking full responsibility. The burden is on my side, even if it's not your duty. Long did exactly what he said. Go to the temple and take the baby home. And when everyone in the village asked the child, Long said it was your baby. With a woman who left. Back home to visit my mother. I'm surprised that Long is now 40 years old. My wife is not taking care of a child. Asked a voice full of contempt. Long, that kid is a... You work in poverty. Now we have more children. I can't even worry about who I want to worry about. Listen to the harsh words of the mind, but there's no reaction. I'm used to my brother's contempt. I just quietly said, that's my child. I don't need much. I just want to raise you up in love. No need for fame or power. Mine smirking contemptuously. It's ridiculous. How can you raise a child? I can't worry about myself. What are you going to teach him? All my life I've worked for has no future. Hard to say nothing more. You know the difference between you and your mind. It's not just the material, it's how they see life. And family affection. Despite being despised by the mind, he was determined to raise the child as his own. I give all my love and care to my grandson. No matter how hard your life is, years have passed. The child grows up in the loving arms of Long and Nuyet. Every time the mind comes back, I've always looked at you with contemptuous eyes. Long has never complained. In the small sick room, the golden light flashed on the bed, where Mrs. Moon lies, tired face, but eyes still lit up determination. Her health has been deteriorating. Heavy breathing. But you know there's not much time left. There are things you must do before you leave. Mrs. Moon looked at Mr. Your wife has been through so much with you. She took the food and the medicine cabinet, right for each child, and put them in a little box. Then she gently handed him a will. She spoke in a weak but steady voice. I've been thinking about this guy a lot. I'm going to divide the property between you like this, see if it makes sense. He took the will and read through every word. Even though health has worn out over the years, he still tried to listen carefully and look back at everything she wrote. He nodded softly, his voice was deep but full of acceptance. Whatever you mean, that's what I mean. I agree. You've done enough for this family. Mrs. Moon sighed, but there's still regret in her eyes. It can't be bad. If you agree with the way I divide it. Then open this last letter. In the letter, I wrote things I never told them. The secrets I've kept for so long. If they have no opinion, this letter doesn't exist. Only you and I know. He glanced at her. My eyes are open because of old age, but there's still deep understanding and empathy. You know you supported the family. Suspension throughout life. She sacrificed endlessly for her husband. And now, even though we're leaving, she's still not comfortable, still worried about your future. He held her hand, his voice trembled softly but firmly. Don't worry, I'll do what you want. They don't even understand right now. But you'll understand. You've sacrificed so much your whole life. Don't worry. She promised to smile softly, but it's not a smile of serenity. It's a mother's, still burdened with unfinished business. She looked out the window, her eyes far away. The wealth of life is not just wealth. It's love. It's your unity. I just hope after I die, they will live in harmony with each other. Wealth can be lost. Family love must always be kept. If they're just fighting for money, this family means nothing anymore. The Blessed One said nothing, only he clasped her hand like a silent promise. You know the greatest legacy that misses. It's not physical property. It's about the lessons of love and sacrifice. Sometime later, her health was quite weak. The last moment, she just hoped that her children, no matter how many waves we go through, I'll always remember her sacrifice. I remember the house that she kept. Happy to sit next to you, silently watching her fall into her eternal sleep. The secret promise, he will fulfill the will of his wife. I've been through a hard life with you. When Mrs. Moon died, a large gap in the family. It seems to cover everything. But the heart still silently carries everything. I don't care about personal happiness or what I've lost. I decided to stay there, take care of the baby tomorrow, and take care of him. The foster father is now old and sick. I don't care about anything. Ready to do any job to earn money to feed your child tomorrow. From working as a carpenter, carry, to the heavy manual labor jobs. They all accepted without complaining. The calluses on the hands, the old clothes. It's just a testament to your hard life. But in the eyes of the dragon, that's what it's worth. To be able to worry about a better future tomorrow. Every day, the sound, take care of him, as if it were my natural duty. Even though he was old and weak when he was hard. But oh, one blame you, always meticulous every meal. Every pill for you. The way I took care of my grandmother before. Hard to understand. My foster father spent his whole life worrying about his family, and now it's your turn to take on those responsibilities. With tomorrow I always try, so she doesn't have to lack anything. I hope tomorrow will have a bright future, out of the poverty you've been through. I work from dawn to dusk. Save every penny for Mai's education. In my free time, I have time to play with you. Tell her about the memories, the sad joy of the family. Teach them the values of love and gratitude. I never mentioned my hard work. With you, happiness is seeing your baby grow up healthy, study hard, and he was blessed to live in peace in the last years of his life. Your life may not be rich, but full of love. That's the most important thing. Know that all your sacrifices will be rewarded. Not equal to money, but with family bonds. What I always cherish. One afternoon, sitting in a familiar chair on the porch, he looked at Tomorrow and Long. Look at Tomorrow and jump. Long is still working hard. He felt it was time for him to realize that. I am smart enough. You have to make your will public, and Mrs. Moon has been preparing for a long time, so that you know the will of your parents. Avoid conflicts later on. That night he called Long to his bedside. His voice was hoarse, but still majestic. Long, I want to declare your mother and father's will. I know I have to take care of this now. I don't want it when I'm gone. You fight or you misunderstand each other. Keep your head down and listen. I know you've thought a lot about this. Even though never expecting property or rights. But I understand the old father's concern. In the heart of Long, family affection is the most precious thing. She always respected the will of her parents. Don't worry, Long said softly. I don't care about property. As long as you live in harmony, I'll do what you want. He gently nodded. The old eyes watched Long with confidence. You know, in your life, Long was the son he was always most proud of, not because of property, but for the sacrifice, endure, and your never-ending affection. I'll call you back tomorrow so it's all clear. Don't let it get messy when I'm gone. He blessed with a sigh, but there's an extraordinary peace of mind in your eyes. The heart just silently nods. My heart sank. I understand that. My time with you is not much. I'll do anything to protect the old father's last will and preserve family affection, as Mrs. Moon had told her before she left. The next afternoon, all of God's children were present. He quietly lit an incense stick for Mrs. Nuet. The wife is dead. Slowly open the box and take out the old box. You sit down. He stared at each child in front of him. You have enough today. I want to read it to you. Your mother's will. This is her wish before she closes her eyes. The space in the house is quiet. There was only the wind blowing softly through the window. Everyone listened carefully to every word he read. From the will, the color of time. He opened the paper. His voice was both serious and emotional. Long is an adopted son. But from the day he came home, my parents never considered it any different from my own. Mother left it 40% of the property. I am the one who will worry about the smoke from my parents. So I'm giving him 40% of this house. My daughter will also get married later. I didn't have any money, so I gave you 20%. When he finished reading, the silence enveloped the room. Everyone has their own thoughts. Air stress roar, group. Finally, the second son. I can't keep my emotions up first. Why is that, Dad? You are a boy. Take care of this house and only get 40%. Same with Mr. Long, he's adopted. He's not as worried about the house as you are. He turned to the grave and asked, "Do you have any comments?" Dad, I don't think it's fair. I'm the only one who gets 20%, while Mr. Long is adopted up to 40%. This doesn't make any sense. He said nothing but looked at Long, the adopted son he had since childhood. Silence without a word. Even if you argue why. What about you, Long? You don't need much, Dad. I'll give you 10% of the rest. The enemy could not calm down and immediately protested. You said that, but you really have no right to take it all. You don't have 1%, let alone 10%. You're an outsider, and you're asking for a share like your own. Keep up the tension in the air. That's right, this property belongs to our parents and us. You're an outsider. It's been so good to eat here for so many years. You grow up and have to go out and live on your own. You're lucky to be in this house. Don't ask for more. My heart is still silent. I never thought I will have to hear such bitter words from the very brothers I've taken care of over the years. Suddenly, he banged his hand on the table. It startled the whole family. What did you just say? I want to get Long out of this house. This house is my parents' house. He has the right to stay here until he marries Ra. If I'm alive, she's still a child of this family. The room was engulfed in tense silence. He sighed, his red eyes with anger. To walk beside him, gently comforting. But I know the rift has begun. Dad, you can divide the property and calculate it later. Maybe I was wrong before. Now that I'm alive, I can give it back. My idea was your mother's. There's nothing wrong with that. Mr. Fuck affirmed. The mind refused to continue to speak in a louder voice. Dad, I don't think this is right. Long is an outsider, but a larger share of the property. Children like us. Why is it reasonable? You and your husband are always unkind to your parents. It's not just Mr. Long who's worried about his parents. When you hear this, you can't hold back your anger. Stand up along the powerful. You stay outside with the inside forever. That's your mother's wish. No respect when I'm dead. You must have left the grave. You are fully educated. I don't understand the ethics of being human. I can accept whatever I share. Whoever takes it or leaves it. When he finished, he turned and walked out of the room. It leaves a heavy atmosphere. The room is silent. There was only long sigh and the awkward confusion of the mind and the mind. That night I quietly packed up some old clothes. The little things that you've saved up over the years. In a small room, he sat alone in the dark. The moon's soft glow streamed through the window. Before you go, call tomorrow. Write it for a few short lines. Leave it on the table, where the two of you used to argue. Letter written. You're gone. You don't need that property. You keep worrying about your family. I thank my parents for raising me, but I don't want to fight anymore. I go to the far country and hope you live well. Don't let materialistic greed to break the family bond. Long carefully placed the letter on the table, looking at the house for the last time, the memories of Mr. and Mrs. Even if it's not my own, I always consider them real parents. And this house is where I grew up and went through so much. Down, but now I know that I don't belong here anymore. Please step out of the house. The door snapped as I gently closed it. Under the moon, he walked slowly through the familiar dirt road, the way you've been so many times. After days of tiring work, now that path will take you to another future. A future you no longer care about. By the dispute, but full of solitude. He carried his little girl on his back, then quietly leave the house. Early that morning, I got a message from my dad. He was silent when he heard his serious voice. You told me to get back here now. I've got something to tell you too. If you don't come back, don't call me Dad from now on. When he finished, he turned his back. He looked tired, like he was carrying a rock on his shoulder. Heavy heart. I don't know what's going on, but I guess that's not good. That afternoon, the two brothers returned home together. Heart full of anxiety and worry, he sat on the chair. In front of him was a carefully folded paper. His hands trembled, and he looked at the two and was hungry. Do you know why the dragon? Leave the house. Because he doesn't want the brothers in the house to be at odds with each other. Are you satisfied now? Suddenly he stood up. Go to the closet and get 2 more letters. He gently placed in front of the mind and collected 1 leaf each. His voice was no longer as heavy as before. This is a letter from your mother. Each one has its own card. She wrote to each of them before she died, and received his letter with a heavy heart. They hurriedly opened it. In that quiet moment, the house was quiet. There's only the wind blowing outside. Mother's letter to mind. My son, when you read this letter, maybe I'm not with you anymore. Right now, I'm suffering from pain every day. But I also find comfort when you know you've become a doctor. I've achieved my dream. I don't worry about your future anymore. But I want you to know more about your brother. Long is not like you. Not going to school properly. From a young age he was orphaned. I do not enjoy love like you. But it's still trying to carry it all. He has to go and herd the water buffalo, doing all kinds of hard work to earn money to feed the kids. Have you ever thought about school? If Long goes to school, who will make money for you? Sitting on the school chair. My house was poor then, and my brother had to go hungry and thirsty. Give me a piece of bread. I know you think you're insulting the weak Long. I can't do the heavy work, but maybe you don't know an important truth. My own brother, I donated my kidney to save your life. Without it, I wouldn't be able to live to this day. I didn't want to say this before, but for now, I think you need to understand your brother's sacrifice better. My son, I hope that when I become talented, you must never forget this gratitude of the dragon. He sacrificed his whole life for you. I hope I will treat my brother with love, the respect it deserves. My mom and dad were going to give him 40% of his fortune, but for what it sacrificed, that's still too little. I just hope you understand my wishes and live in harmony with your brothers and sisters. When I finished reading the letter, my heart was closed. The words are slanted and slanted. In my mother's time, it feels deeper. The sorrow is rising in my heart. Eyes looking at the fall, I saw my sister standing there with a pale face, shaky hands holding the letter. Do you remember when you were pregnant? I was crying, begging you to hide me. For fear that your father would know, I helped you keep it a secret. After the birth, she insisted on leaving the baby. I want to rebuild my life. I can't wait to see you suffer. Afraid he would collapse, he took the child to the temple. But what I didn't know, Long himself discovered everything and take that baby home. Admit it as your child. She's my blood. But the one who sacrificed to feed him was Long. I used to disparage Long, call it ugly old. He even laughed at the fact that he had a baby fall. But now you need to understand, it's not someone else's child. The apricot tree is my daughter. Long has spent his whole life carrying things. You are like the mind, never understood. It's given up on personal happiness. Silently feed the apricot tree to protect you from scandal and honor. Girl, I know you're young and you make mistakes in life. I hope you grow up and understand. The family is always a rock, no matter what happens. Long has sacrificed too much for you. From fast food, give up your clothes to accept everything, without ever complaining. From small to large, it's never had a decent pair of clothes. Everything he gets is for you. So when you succeed, I hope you never forget your brother's gratitude. My parents are going to give me 40% of their property. But for me, it can never be enough. In return for its sacrifice, I just want you to get along. Let's embrace each other as a true family. I believe you will understand and live well. Both brothers drowned in the storm of emotions. The amount of regret and shame beset. I remember how many times you were weak. Can't do heavy work. I don't think so. The kidney you're carrying inside you, it is Long's own. Every anger that breaks out in my mind. But this time it wasn't Long. I'm angry at myself. I've been angry at my stupidity for years. Autumn is no better. You can't seem to believe your eyes. When I read the words I wrote about tomorrow, that child, the one you abandoned, once denied the existence, he's being cared for and loved like a son. I remember the time she told Long to disparage you that snails can't carry themselves. Snails also carry poles for moss. You don't know that. I was the one who threw the burden on brother's shoulder. The air in the room became stuffy, mine sighing, his voice hoarse. I have to see my brother. Collect your head with tears in your back. You too. But will he forgive us? Hustle and hurry in the middle of the darkness. Every village, every street is no stranger. But tonight everything is getting tired. Every step of them. It's a deep dive into anxiety and fear. They asked everyone who knocked on the door. No one knows where Long is. The cold wind in my face, the streetlights cast heavy shadows. They both dare not stop, afraid that a second is a life lost to you. When we got to the bus stop, we both stopped in the yellow light. I saw a familiar person standing there. In the middle of the rush, Mr. Long with a silver backpack on the shoulders of two tables. Your hotel hand. Hold the small hand of tomorrow. She's clinging to you. Eyes of confusion, as if he didn't want to leave his only rock. The sight is breathtaking. Mr. Long in patchwork clothes, shoulders down because of years of hard work, looks pitifully skinny. He looked at his brother. Mr. Long is now a lonely man. A man who sacrificed his whole life for his family, but quietly standing there preparing to leave. But oh, one blame. The enemy cannot resist. My feet are out of control. You run towards me. The call echoes in despair. Mr. Long, don't leave us. Sorry, we're wrong, Long. Please come back. His eyes are deep, tired, but not angry. I looked at the two of you and down at the apricot tree. The baby is still clinging to your hand. His black eyes seem to reflect his utmost fear. My heart is getting closer. My voice is trembling. Baby, don't leave us. You are the only support of the family. We can't live without you. The bus station seems to be quiet. People around you start paying attention. Some people stop, quietly observe the moving scene. Among the crowd, Long appears as a lonely statue, but pushing the weight of sacrifice. A man who gave it all away. Take care of the family. Now there's only a tired shadow left. Of years of toil. Clinging to my hand in tears. You've sacrificed your whole life for us. Now it's our turn to take care of you. Please come home with us. Long sighed softly. Your eyes soften. He bent down to patting the tomorrow's tangled hair. Your actions are gentle, but it's filled with so much unspeakable pain. I finally said quietly, quiet but emotional voice. Quiet but emotional voice. I'll be back, but you promised me. Don't let trivial things divide your family. Let's respect each other. Hear that mind and cry. They rushed to embrace Mr. Long, tears rolling down my face. Tomorrow is still standing there bewildered. I don't know what's going on. But in the eyes of that child, there was also a flutter. The people around him watched silently. Some people bowed their heads and some tears in their eyes. There was an old man standing nearby. Your eyes on understanding. Family is everything. Never lose the most precious thing. The bus station seemed to have stopped. The sound of the car horn, the sound of footsteps. It's all blurry. Before the silent but profound reunion. In the midst of a fast life, they see a story of love. Of late but sincere repentance. That night, Long returned to his familiar house. Night down, I opened a letter written to me by Mrs. I gave it back to you this afternoon. But Long couldn't write. All my life I've worked so hard to forget myself. He handed the letter to his daughter to read. Voice baby striptease. Mother's son. When I read this letter, maybe I'm not with you anymore. I wrote this letter to send things that I can't tell you directly. You know, I'm not a very good emotional person, but my love for you, it's deeper than anything. Long since the day I returned to my family, I treated you as my own child. I'm always grateful to you for taking on a lot of work, sacrificing everything without ever complaining. Even though I don't go to school like you do, there are no good things you deserve. But I always do it quietly. Let them learn to grow up. I know you've had to let go of a lot of dreams. I have to take the blame, but I have never blamed anyone. I know your life is not easy, but I've never asked for anything for myself. I've lived my whole life for my family, for you. Now that I'm gone, I hope you take better care of yourself. Don't just think about others and forget about yourself. You also deserve to be happy. You also deserve a peaceful life. The property I left you, maybe not as much as sacrifice that I have for this family, but I hope that use it. Take care of your life and tomorrow. I don't want you to suffer anymore. Don't worry about the heart and mind. They've grown up. I believe that they will understand your gratitude over time. In the end, I just hope that you guys get along. Cover each other. Life has many difficulties, but family is always our rock. I love you very much, Long. You are my mother's greatest pride. Every word in the letter seemed to touch me deeply. Make your eyes hard in the face of all difficulties. Suddenly in tears. I don't cry out loud, but my heart seems to break in silence. This is the first time in my life I felt the full love from my mother that I've taken care of all these years. The letter is an affirmation I never dared to expect. It's a recognition for a lifetime of sacrifice. Softly gripped my hand. My shoulders fluttered in a minute. Not because of suffering, it's because of a quiet but deep sense of comfort. I finally feel like I deserve to be loved. A week later, The family gets together to settle the division of property. The mind is the first to speak. His eyes turn towards Mr. Long, full of sorrow. My brother and I have thought about it. You sacrifice too much for your family. My husband thinks I should get a bigger share of the property, as I told you in my will. Mr. Long shook his head softly. His voice was clear. I told you, I don't need anything. You keep worrying about the future. Yours for the children later. I look at you with dry eyes. Mom, I've decided you deserve that. You sacrificed your whole life for us. I hope you don't refuse. Long sighed silently for a moment and then said, All right. If you decide that, I accept. But I just need to keep this house. This is where Mom and Dad are. Where you're stuck all your life. The rest, I don't want anything to do with money. Mind and look at each other. You both understand that this is Mr. Long's final decision. The house will belong to you. The other property. It will be divided according to my will. Everyone agrees. No more arguments. After that meeting, Long's life returned to simple peace. Your heart has never been quiet. Take care of the future. Your own biological child. My heart seems to be strangled. You want your child back. I want to make up for the mistakes I made. But I'm afraid of this. It will disrupt the lives of both. I'm used to seeing Long as my father. You don't want to hurt her. Or make it difficult for Mr. Long. The mind sees your inner struggle. One night I went to find my sister. Sit down next to me gently. What are you going to do with the apricot tree? Bending his head, tears rolled down his cheeks. I don't know, baby. I want him back, but I'm afraid he won't accept me. He used to call Long his father. I'm afraid I'm just messing things up. Sighing, he put his hand on his sister's shoulder. I understand, but you can't hide forever. The apricot needs to know who its mother is. It's important that you be honest and love it sincerely. As long as you do that, I think everything will be fine. Listen to the words of the mind, but there are still many concerns. You know you can't make a decision right away. You need time to consider everything. I came to see Mr. Long that afternoon. When you step into the field, I saw Long sitting on the front porch, and Tomorrow's playing with the chickens in the yard. Closing in on a confused heart. Long raised his head and looked at her. Invite you to sit down. Sit down next to me. Eyes towards the apricot tree. She plucked up the courage to speak softly. Baby, I want to talk to you about tomorrow. Long didn't say anything. Just waiting for you to keep your head down, your voice trembling. I want you back, but afraid it won't accept you. Long sighed, his voice sincere and rustic. I know this day will come. Tomorrow is my daughter, and I have the right to take it back. She's a girl. I need a mother to take care of me. Tears of Mr. Long. I thank you very much. I want to take care of you. How many years have you hurt me? Long looked at his gentle but steady gaze. I think about you tomorrow. She have a bright future with you. should be very real. And the big girl. You will need a mother to guide you and take care of you. I'm a man who's still clumsy in his childcare. He hugged Li Long's arm and cried. You feel sorry for your brother too much. Your mother owes you a lot. One morning I saw Long sitting on the porch. Come sit next to me. The quiet blue sky. But there are still heavy things in my heart. I said in a small voice full of sincerity. I know I've let you take too much. Over the years, I've been the one to worry about everything. And I don't mind just knowing myself. Long turned to look at the mind, eyes without blame. It's just calm but deep. As if I understood everything, I felt a slow pain in my heart. When you think about past mistakes, you've gotten a lot thinner. The mind keeps on trembling. You don't have to worry anymore. Your health has everything in the family to take care of. Please let me take care of you. Like you used to take care of us. Sighing softly, the eyes look far away. I didn't say anything, just nodded. The silence makes the heart feel heavier. But it's also a sign that you've accepted. Mine knows regret needs to be expressed in action. And not just with words. I spent more time with Mr. Long. Every meal, you always make sure Mr. Long has a full meal. I often take you to the doctor. Watch for every small sign to make sure you're healthy. When Mr. Long works too hard, I don't hesitate to remind you to rest. Even try to convince you. Get help from others. You are like that. Gradually the tension in the heart of the mind goes away. Instead, it's the belief that I've been trying. Make up for your shortcomings. Even though it still keeps its quiet closed. They no longer refuse the care of the mind as before. The words are less and less, but the empathy and connection between the two brothers, it gets deeper and deeper. Take care of Mr. Long every moment. It's a way to make it right. And show love. I didn't know how to show it before. Long did not say out. I must have felt a deep sense of remorse and the determination of his brother. One autumn afternoon, he used to sit on an old wooden chair. Watch your kids laugh together. Long is taking care of the vegetable garden in the corner of the yard. Thursday is sitting Tet hair for baby tomorrow. The laughter echoed through the little house. To bring you a happiness deep in my heart, he whispered to himself. Mrs. Moon, do you see that? You've finally understood. They love each other as we wish. Even though health has declined, but in his heart he found strange peace. You know that your wife, Mrs. Moon, is watching them from eternity. And she's certainly smiling contentedly, seeing the family get along. One winter afternoon, Long sat down next to Mr. After finishing work in the garden. You've grown up. Calm and always silently worried for me. It's like what you've done all your life for your family. Your father sat quietly together, watching the scenery in peace. Softly spoken heart. Dad, I see you've been feeling better lately. Are you okay? He smiled and looked at me with loving eyes. You know you don't have much time, but that doesn't worry you. He was ready for the last trip of his life. His voice was weak but peaceful. Long, I'm fine. Now look at you living in harmony like this. I'm not worried anymore. My whole life, your mother and I just want you to love each other. Cover each other. Now that I can see that, I'm reassured. He sat silently listening to his father's words. I understand that, what I've sacrificed to teach you over the years. I want my family to be like today. Unity and love. Days and months later, his health is deteriorating. You can't walk much anymore. But he tried to sit by the window and look at his children, as a way to enjoy the last moments. In my life, there is no worry in your heart, no burden. One morning, God feels weak. He called his children to the bedside, and in the last moment of my life, he saw the face of each child. People you have loved all your life. He looked at the whispers. I'm glad you're united in loving each other. Your mother must be smiling from a distance. I'm ready to go see her. He died in a peaceful sleep. Light smile on your lips. You have completed your mission. Our mission is to protect and build a loving family, where harmony and genuine affection. It is always the highest value. When you leave, his children were present at the last moment of his life. They knew that he had gone in. Peace and serenity. The eldest son of the family speaks up. Our parents have lived their whole lives with us. Now is the time to move on. They deserve what their parents sacrificed. My heart is filled with gratitude for my parents and brother. I finally understood that life is not just about status or material things. That the most important thing, it's love between the family members. Dear friends, the story closes with a profound lesson about love and sacrifice. The heart is the embodiment of nobility and tolerance. Although not the same blood, but I've spent my whole life to take care of my family. Sacrifice never requires a response. In the hearts of people who truly love, the most important thing, to see your loved ones happy. Sometimes when you lose everything, we realize the true value of love and compassion. Dear friends, if you see this story or you remember to subscribe to the channel, and share support for Quine Wong. Hello, and see you and friends again. New series will be published. Regular waves on the channel. Hello, and see you later.